Welcome. Welcome, everyone. So happy to have you all here. This is really exciting to be with our Create Arts Online community and anyone that came from our Mosaic Arts Online community. We are so happy to have you here. Good morning if you are from the West Coast. Good afternoon if you are here from the East Coast, and all of you in between. So before we get started, we love hearing where everyone is from. So if you don't mind popping in the chat a little hello to Kecia and I, and then where you're coming from. We just love to know who and where you are. So we are really enjoying doing these YouTube live events with both of our online schools. We've gotten on, this is our third Saturday in a row. We'll probably be doing them more regularly, but taking breaks in between. And like I said, with our sister company, Mosaic Arts Online, and now here today with CAO. We feel this is just such a great way to really connect with the community and get to know our artists a little bit better and how they work behind the scenes. Today, I've invited Kecia Deveney to join us. I want to give you a little background about Kecia. Kecia comes from the Jersey Shore and is a self-taught artist. As I have witnessed with the 5 courses we have filmed here, she can pretty much create with any materials or found objects out there. She'll pull anything out of a bag, and it's pretty magical. I love how much Kecia rejects the rules of fine art and creates from her heart and soul. When Kecia moved from California to New Jersey, she discovered that her love for art could be turned into a daily practice. This daily practice is weaved between hours of being a caregiver for her son, Tucker. Kecia's home has become her wonderland. She has an incredible eye for curating the eclectic with the refined and transforming her living space into a beautiful creation, as well as I've seen other places like her sister's. Have you ever seen Kecia's Bell tent? It's her outdoor studio, and I truly envy it. It's a pretty cool thing in her backyard. Kecia has taught around the world, and we're so thrilled she's become a part of our CAO community to share her work and talents with all of us. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Kecia Deveney.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me, Tammy. Thanks for everyone for tuning in today.
It's great to have you here. I have been wanting to see your studio for a long time. For as many times we've chatted on the phone, I've never gotten the tour. So today, on top of our little chat, we'll also be getting a little visual tour of Kecia's studio. And I heard the floor is something that everyone loves to look at.
Yes.
So I'm really excited about that. So let's just get started since we have everybody here, and stay until the end because we do have a very extra special bonus gift. So, but to get started, Kecia, just give us a little background and how you got started as an artist. Were you like selling fax and printers before, or how did it all transition into this full-time life?
I just, I believe that being a caregiver and I'm not able to work a full-time job. I'm not even really able to work, a part-time job. Tucker does require 24-hour care. So it's really hard to have a life outside the home. And I've always been creative, but, really just when we moved here to New Jersey in 95, we moved in the middle of winter and it was snowing. My kids were like 5 and 3. The only one I knew really was my husband and my mother-in-law. So I really had no outlet, nowhere to go for sure. Didn't know anyone. And so I just started, tapping into that creative atmosphere that I've always had, and just started doing stuff around the house, like as far as decorating or, painting or, decorating furniture, painting furniture, or whatever, anything to just be, active and creative. And it really just sort of snowballed from there, honestly.
And when did you first start teaching?
Several years after that, it sort of went from like I was just doing stuff around the house, and then I started making Christmas gifts, and then people were like, "Oh, you should sell these." So I did a couple shows, And then, I met a couple people at shows, and they're like, have you ever heard of, at the time, mixed media was called altered art. And I was like, no, I've never heard of that. And so, I looked it up. We didn't really have, the computers and the internet back then. So
Right.
I went to Barnes and Nobles and grabbed a magazine and just started flipping through it. I'm like, oh my God, there's like a whole world out there. Just like this stuff that I always kind of thought was a little weird. I'm like, there's a whole world of that. And then I'm like, and you can take classes, and people have events and retreats for this stuff. So I did go to a couple of retreats, and it just really, really opened my eyes. And I really enjoyed taking the classes. But at the same time, I thought, no, I think I want to teach classes. I think I want to teach what all the stuff that's in my head. I want to teach it to other people and help them. And I also have a psychology degree, and I feel like there's a lot of psychology in what I do and in working with people as well. A lot of women our age. There is a lot of psychology to. No, I'm not going to, I'll use the word behavior, but I don't mean that in a bad or, positive or negative way. I just mean that, a lot of women our age are not very confident. And that was sort of the era we grew up in as well, as far as, more be silent, don't talk, don't articulate your feelings, just don't say anything, that kind of thing. And so it's very interesting to actually teach art to these type of women, because there's a lot of hand holding, yet at the same time, I enjoy being able to tap into my psychology degree, because I also never got to follow and take work with that because of what ended up happening to Tucker. That just was a train derailment and totally life-changing event. And so now at this juncture in my life, I am using applications of my psychology background and along with art, and I really enjoy doing that. I really enjoy teaching and encouraging, and yeah.
I know you're totally right about having that psychology degree. And I always said that about my previous career as a costumer, that I didn't need a fashion degree. I needed a psychology degree to deal with the actors. And now having students, what's so beautiful, like what you just said, is these people that do have inhibitions, you can really work with them to say, let go, like this is your chance, like really just get into that zone of creating and let go. But you know where they're coming from. You don't get frustrated, you understand, and you want to help them through it. So I think it's a great background to have. And then the art is just, just comes out of every pore of your body, which I already knew that. So
it is very challenging to get people to let go. So, you do have to be very patient and very understanding, and just keep encouraging and just keep encouraging.
Well, and with all your years of doing what you have been doing, what keeps you inspired? What really, like every day you get to that table and you do want to make something? And I see a lot of it obviously on social media, and we talk about it when you're here in the studio, but what really still keeps you inspired after all these years?
That's just, to me, that's just like where could I go with that? I mean, I'm going to fall back to say again that because I'm a caregiver and I don't get to leave the house very much, I do have a daily practice of creating art, because I consider that my full-time job as well as being a full-time caregiver. If I don't create art, I don't feel good. I need to keep doing it. I need to keep going. At the same time, though, I get very stir crazy in the house. I feel claustrophobic. My studio is very linear, and I can tell that, I had told you before that the caregiver's been off for 8 days. My studio is very linear, and when I start feeling really claustrophobic, like just trying to back up, to go over here, and I start just feeling that claustrophobia, then I know I need a break, and it's time to step away and get out of the house. And oftentimes I don't realize, I haven't been out of the house in 6 days. That's just not very good. So I do have a weekly practice, I should say, of leaving the house on Fridays, and I go to the flea market. There's a flea market. It's not very far from my house, and which is also nice, so that I know I'm not going to be gone too long if I'm starting to feel, pressured to get back home and work and help with Tucker. But I do like to go to the flea market, and not necessarily like I got to buy things every time, but just even the act of walking around, breathing the
Sure.
fresh air, Socializing.
Being around your people.
Yeah, I mean, my flea market's a little on the dodgy side. It's a little sketchy. Took me many, many years before I would go there without my husband. It's a lot of men there, a lot of older men, a lot of older white men. So
Selling their
uh,
junk.
they're not really artsy or artistic, and they look at me and they say things like, "Oh, are you a hippie?" And it's like,
It's not the
but
Rose Bowl.
no, it's not. But I do get things. I get excellent things there, and the prices are incredibly, ridiculously inexpensive. And so it's just the act of getting in my car, go getting a cup of coffee, go over to the flea market, walk around. Occasionally I run into someone that I know, chit chat. I always get a hot dog from the hot dog lady because she makes really good chili. So these are all part of this, weekly practice of, let's call it self-care.
Yeah.
And even just being outside and breathing fresh air and getting sunshine on me. And granted, last week when I went, it was really hot. So I didn't stay too long, but it was just enough to, I'm out of the house and I'm just, taking a breather because, claustrophobia is not a fun feeling. And I just start to feel like someone's just like squeezing me, it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
So that's how I really try to stay inspired in the scenario that I have. It's not like I can just, jet off for the weekend or, go away for 2 days. Everything has to be very planned out and choreographed. So this is how I sort of, maneuver around that.
Yeah. And since we're on the subject of what gets you inspired, and you talked about the flea market, I saw your studio in Where Women Create, and I bet our audience would love a little twirl around your space. And
Sure.
you can pick up your iPad and do that. We would love it.
All right. So I'm just gonna. I don't do any flipping or anything, right? Just hold the
Whatever.
iPad.
Yeah, you're just going to lift it up and take it, I think, with you, you said.
Okay.
And don't forget the floor.
Oh, I won't. All right. Okay.
So
How's
go slowly with the camera, just because of the the stuff we're on.
Okay. And so how's the visual? Good?
Yeah, really good right now. Just go slow. Oh, that floor. Oh my God.
Okay. Yeah, here's the floor. So what happened was we pulled up the carpet, and I just said, I don't want anything else back down. I just want it. It was plywood. This used to be an old garage. And I was like, I don't want anything back down. I don't want to worry about it. So then one day I'm like, I'm just going to paint that ugly plywood. Okay. So just a lot of my art. I like shrines. So there's a big shrine that I made. Here's where I keep a lot of my supplies to work with, fabrics and papers. A painting that I need to get back to. My little artsy chair. I think that was a $3 chair from the thrift store, and I painted it. More supplies. Have a lot of supplies. Since I do so many mediums, there's a lot of my journals there.
Since you're at the journals, do you want to talk a little bit about the mixed media book and the course that we just launched yesterday?
Yeah, sure. All right, so hang on. All right. Okay, so there's a lot of my books. And do you want me to get out that mixed media book from the course? Hang on, my fingers are in the way.
Sure. If you can pick the one out, I see the whole collection there, which is exactly what we want people to know, is that they can make as many as they want. And I love the way it's displayed in that old suitcase.
Okay, hang on. So this is a little challenging because I can't flip the camera around to do this properly, but hold on. All right, so here's the book. And we'll just put it here. There we go. So it ended up, as you know, being quite chunky. And it was so chunky that I had to hand sew it closed, which I didn't expect. And I was worried the whole time that I didn't have enough pages for it, which was hilarious.
And imagine it was only took you like a day and a half to create that. And just by the collection of stuff you brought from, home, you were able to make this. So it doesn't take that much materials. I mean, just scraps of things you put together made such a gorgeous, gorgeous book.
Well, not only, I don't even think I used a lot of the stuff I brought from home, because remember I brought it because I was worried, but then I ended up making so much stuff in the videos that it was more than enough.
Yes. The amount of techniques that you taught really is what chunked up that book. And
yeah.
it chunks up the course. So it was a win-win for what we were not expecting. And wow, I just love seeing that collection, Kecia. That is just beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah. So there's like little books, and these are pages that are ready to go for a book, and then covers waiting for a book. And then this is, hang on, I'm still trying to hold this iPad correctly. This book here is such an unusual book. So I'm going to put it on the floor because it's so big. So can we see it?
Yeah. Perfect.
So this is just one of these things that I just started just putting so many, like here's a journal inside the journal, and here's another journal, and then another journal, and then there's journals inside the journals, and then here's a little baby journal. Yeah, so this one was really fun and interesting. And then, but my favorite part is making covers, honestly.
Yeah, you were sure that your cover was going to be one way, and then you got the cardboard out and the fabric, and it went another way.
Yeah.
Love it no matter what, because there is so much room for creativity and variety in this. And talk a little bit about how you feel like these journals are such a great way to express yourself without being the very, traditional, I need to sit down and write in my journal sort of thing, and how you still express yourself that way.
All right. Yeah, I don't really write in my journals. I'm not really a Dear Diary type of person. And there's nothing against that, because a lot of people love to do that. I just am not really fond of writing anymore, just because it really hurts my hands, which is the silliest excuse, but I just don't enjoy writing at all. I like to use my typewriter. That's different. And then, so maybe I'll type out something and put it in a journal. But I just kind of consider my journals the whole act of the art itself and the whole creative process. And I know that for myself, I give a lot of energy into my work, and that is the written emotion that is articulated in art, if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Do you want to continue the tour so you can not have to keep holding the iPad?
We're almost to the other side. Like I said, it's very linear. So that's the other side. And again, towards the back is where I keep a lot of fabrics and stuff for sewing dolls. And then we're at my desk, which I didn't really tidy up. I wanted to show, this is a real working desk with a lot of stuff happening. And there's my TV. I like to watch TV or stream, shows and play music for Tucker, stuff like that.
And do you create on your desk? It looks like there's lots of paint on that desk. Is that also where you
um,
work?
I have a silicone mat next to me, and that's what I will put my paint on. Um, and then when it dries, I can just peel it up. So yeah, it is a lot. It is pretty messy. There's a lot of layers here, but under all these layers is a really nice oilcloth piece of fabric that if I took this all off, it would look really pretty.
Well, we don't want to see pretty. We want to see what you got going on.
No, we want to see what's really working and what's really happening.
Exactly. And I love that's such an inspiring studio. So thank you for sharing it. So
Oh, absolutely.
amongst yeah, so amongst all the work that you did just show us, is there a favorite medium or is there something that you gravitate more towards that you love to do, or is it just whatever is coming to you that day?
I like using my sewing machine.
Your
So
industrial sewing machine.
yeah, I like to sew. So whether it's sewing on fabric or sewing on paper or sewing the two together, um, I like to take all these fabric scraps and sew them together, and then maybe that's what I turn into a journal cover. I don't know. I just really, really enjoy sewing, and I like hand stitching as well. But that's another thing that's really hard on my hands. So I don't do as much right now. But I do like my sewing machine, and I have three of them. I have an industrial one, which is super big, and which would have probably sewn through that chunky journal. And then I have another size that's sort of not industrial, but not crafter, household. And then I have my household one. So
No, that's awesome that you have all of that happening and you can create you do. How much of this process do you really like? Is it exploring and experimentation, or do you really know what you're going to create in the end? Do you have a final product in your mind, or is it all just like open to the universe and whatever comes to you?
it's 50-50. Like I may know that, okay, I want to make a doll, but I have no idea what I'm going to do. I don't really pre-plan. Oftentimes, maybe I saw something in my stash. I'm like, oh, I really want to play with that today. And maybe that piece of fabric inspires me, whether it's colors or whether maybe it's an African print, maybe that sort of dictates the direction that it's going to go. Um, but I mean, plans with me tend to disappear once I start playing, and I'm like, oh, I want to do this. Now I want to do this. And I have so many ideas and so many techniques in my head as far as different things I've done, and I just want to try to combine them all. And so yeah, sometimes something that really should have taken me like a day ends up taking me like a week or so, just because I'm just having fun. I mean, that's my bottom line is, just enjoy and have fun and create from the heart.
And do you do multiple projects at one time, or are you a one finish the next one?
No, I have many projects going on at the same time. I've got like I've got that painting over there I need to finish. I've got some journal covers that I'm working on. Just even looking around at all the stuff sitting around. I'm working on a book right here that I'm having fun playing with. I have some journals here that I'm making covers that I'm going to try and get listed in my shop, because I really thought that would be fun to do. So this is an abstract painting on fabric and then onto a journal cover. So yeah, I have a lot of things that are always happening at once. And for me, someone like me, whether you call it ADD or I just get bored so quickly by doing anything that's repetitive and routine. And that probably has a lot to do with being a caretaker for Tucker. And I'm not saying that's boring, but it's definitely very routine and can be very Groundhog Day. Every day is, if you've ever watched the movie, it's very much like the same day over and over and over again. And so to sit down and do something the same over and over and over again really bores me. So this whole deviation between painting and sewing and journals and making dolls definitely saves my sanity from that feeling of boredom and feeling that's a little feeling of trapped as well. So kind of expands me a little bit to get out of that.
And you've talked with other people that are in your same position, right? And shared how this is such a therapy for you with everything and how you balance it. Because a day in your life, do you want to share just a little bit like a day in your life of what this lifestyle is like? Because I don't think anybody really knows exactly how much you really do have to be in two different places in, at the
Yeah,
same time.
it is. I really want to get a Fitbit, or I want to start recording like how many times I actually get up and sit down, get up and sit down, get up and sit down. And that's probably the hardest part as a working artist, though, is the constant interruption. And again, I'm not being negative about my son Tucker, but being realistic about also being a caregiver and trying to be an artist. And what you just mentioned, balance. Just sit down and like he gets fed. Okay, so let's answer your question. He gets fed every hour through a G tube, and so I feel like I just sat down, got into my work, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm half hour past his next feeding. So I really have to be on task with his needs. And then he also wears diapers. So I have to make sure I'm checking his diaper and does he need to be changed. And then also he has a lot of coughing that we use a suction machine for. So I'll be getting up to do that sort of thing. Yeah, so it definitely keeps me busy. That's for sure. Um, and sometimes I feel like I'll go to bed and I'll be so tired and exhausted, but at the same time, from all that sort of up and down, get this done, do this, hurry up, you know, get everything accomplished, that my brain is like in hyper overdrive um, from trying to accomplish so much in very short hours.
Well, it's incredible. You and I've gotten to know each other a little bit over the last year or so, but it is amazing with everything you do to take care of Tucker, and you do have that short period of time when you do have your caregiver there, that you have such this prolific body of work, and you do get out. Like you came here for a few days to film across the country, and you guys do work it out, but like you said, you really have to plan for it. There is no just like, basically you don't walk out the front door unless everything is covered so that you can go somewhere. So to know that you're not, only drowning in that, but you are actually finding this escape, and it's become something that is, productive, and it actually generates an income and it makes you happy, that it's really incredible, and it's a really powerful story that I don't know if many people know, that you've lived like this for over 30 years.
Yeah.
And somehow, and you do have your studio, but like you said, it's hot and humid today, so you don't want to leave the indoors even though you have a little bit of freedom.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really, really incredible. So is there anything specific that's on your table right now that you're working on that was yesterday or going to be when we finish talking, or what's the latest?
Yeah, so I want to get this finished. I've been working on the covers, and then I'll start playing on the insides. And this is just, I've been recycling some cardboard for this. And I want to, my kitty knocked over one of my little guys and broke him, so he needs to get repaired. And that's fine. I'm going to totally change up how he was before. And yeah, so this poor little guy needs some help. He's got a big chunk out of his head. So I'll do something fun with him. And yeah, covers to finish. I mean, there's just a lot to keep. There's never a dull moment as far as I'm concerned, as far as finding something to do. Very very rarely do I sit down and think, gosh, I don't have anything to work on.
And so if everything is moving like this all the time, when do you know something is finished? When do you look at like the book you're working on now, or when we did the mixed media book, how do you know, like, okay, I don't want to overdo it, especially like when you're painting and you're mark making? When do we know that something is finished or it's time to walk away?
Yeah, that's challenging because, especially for me, and I believe more is more. And I'm all about the extra, whereas some people don't like that. They don't like all that chaos. I live a very chaotic life, and so that chaos is very a part of who I am. Um, so I don't know. I know when I'm doing my paintings, there's a lot of back and forth between making it really chaotic. And I showed you a lesson when we did the mixed media, not that one, the second one, the Constantina book, about I acknowledge that, there's some viewers who this might be too chaotic for. And then let me show you how to calm it down. So there is a lot of that sort of thing. I find the chaos very inspiring. So, like, if you just started with a white canvas and I put down all this chaos, I feel like it's really inspiring to me to continue on. Whereas some people look at the white canvas and they're just like, I don't know what to do. I'm just, the white is just intimidating. So I have no problem pushing things back, moving things forward. I don't know. So that's a hard question for me because I'm so in tune with doing that. And all I can say is that I will never finish a painting if there's something about it that's bothering me. So I might have to spend some time looking at and figuring out what don't I like about this? What's bothering me? And then once I kind of hone in on that and fix it, and then I say, yeah, I do really like it now, then I can kind of consider it done. But
Well,
like the book I made in class in our class, there's so much in that book that it'll never be done. I can just keep going.
Well, but I will say that's kind of the beauty and where I wanted to go with this is that you really know how to find the balance. And it's almost like, when people make mud out of paint because, oh, they added too many of this color, too many of that color. And all of a sudden they're like, I got mud. And you really teach about, a little bit about art elements, about working in the 3s or the 5s and about, maybe some complementary colors. You just, sprinkle all that in, but it's really about the balance and how you can make this chunky book. But, I wish it still lived here because I would want to add something to it. But I've started my own little collection and we'll make one day soon, hopefully. But it's just so inspiring to see that you really do have a way and watching you work. I mean, in this course, if there's one thing that people can take away from it, it is that it's knowing that, oh my God, there's so much going on here, but God, it looks so balanced. It's really, really, that's a talent. And I think something that you teach without even realizing you're teaching it.
Yeah. Well, if we go look back at the shrine class that I took, that application is there as well, as far as how do you create a shrine? How do you achieve balance? And that's when I kind of introduced my little, theory. I forget what I was calling it. Sort of like a steps and things to follow as far as add this and add this and add this. And they all complement each other, but they're all different as well. So.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It was almost, I think you called it like a formula
Oh yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. Yes. It's a formula.
it's a
Exactly.
formula because you can still make art that doesn't look formulaic.
Right.
But if you have these sort of a little bit of guidelines and you follow them, then we can, figure out how to make something that has this balance because mixed media can get out of, whack when people try too much of this or too much of that. And that's really a talent that I'm really excited that you share with your courses and our community. It's really, really awesome.
One thing I guess that I would give as advice is that, and I would tell this to my students, don't ever add something to your art unless it absolutely has a purpose. So if you're just sitting at your desk and you're working on a shrine and there's like a butterfly over here and you're like, oh, maybe I'm going to put that on my shrine. If that butterfly has no meaning or significance, it shouldn't be just added to your shrine just because it's conveniently sitting right there. So if you sort of think about it, it really needs to be a story. It needs to match your story and it needs to match what's happening in front of you.
That's exactly true. And what's it like for you going to these? I know you are able to get out a little bit, and when you do, use your time wisely. Go to workshops and different places. You've been to Oaxaca. You just went to one here in California. What do you get out of it? Because I know you're always a student, but you're also a teacher. So how does that relationship work when you're in one of these workshops creating?
Yeah, that's interesting because at this point, I feel like, there's not a whole lot of things that I am still learning. But at the same time, so for example, the workshop that I went to in San Diego with my sister, it really was more about being able to do something with my sister. So spending time with my sister in a really fun way. And then also the instructor is a friend of mine, and I haven't seen her in many years, and we just fell in love with each other we were taking a class together, and we both love each other's work. And so when I saw that she was teaching a workshop near where I could go to see my sister and take her, it's just a win-win-win. So it was a really fun class. And it's a good chance for me to just get that creative uninterrupted time and take advantage of it.
Yeah, that I can only imagine. And do you have any teaching gigs coming up? Are you going to any conferences, retreats?
um I haven't really been scheduling any teaching since COVID. I have been asked to do something next year. We're trying to work that out. It's really, really starting to be, and I don't think a lot of people understand this too, to actually go and teach somewhere. It's very expensive. You have to bring so much stuff. You have to consider so much stuff. You have to fly there, drive there, then rent a car and find somewhere to stay. And so while I love it, it seems like these days it's very expensive to even leave the door to go try to make money. And then a lot of these places that are hosting don't understand like why I would request such a fee per student. You know what I mean? So it's a really hard line to be making money at it anymore unless you can really get a huge crowd of say 20 people. But then in this day of COVID, and I have to be so careful about Tucker, is that something that I want to, be involved
I No, it's a huge valid answer. And, kind of circles back to how we ended up together. That I know you
with? Yeah.
reached out to someone we know and talked about doing online courses just for this reason. I mean, we all know, having taught for so many years, that there is nothing greater than the energy of being together in that kind of experience. But life has changed and things are getting more expensive. You're right about travel and people having to get to these places, conferences, retreats, or even weekend workshops. A lot has changed in that world. So the online teaching, as much as, you have to be alone when you're working, but we always have, a way to engage with our instructors through our comment sections, or doing these events, we hope helps, get some energy and engagement going. But I totally get it, that it's not any kind of regular schedule like it might have been. And I know for you, it's always been challenging even before COVID, like we just talked about. So I totally can appreciate that. And I think, as we all know, the online education platform is only growing and getting bigger and bigger. So we're grateful that you can be here with us and share. And I know you're doing it on a couple other platforms. I think that's awesome. Just the more people that you get exposed to and get to share, because otherwise it's just a weird world. You're sitting in there in your studio with Tucker or alone. And how else do you reach out to the world? And this is what we're here for. So we're so grateful. While we're here, is there anything else you want to share before I ask if there's any questions out there?
No, I don't think so, because, if they're going to ask me questions, which I love to answer questions, that's more sharing. So
that's all. Yeah. And then I don't have to do the work. So is there anybody out there with a question for Kecia? My business partner / husband is on the other side of this camera, and he is looking at the YouTube and he sees your chat. So he'd love to give me those questions if they're in the chat. Do we have anything yet? Not yet. Okay. I'll give you guys a couple seconds to think about them. What else can we talk about, Kecia? We know we have one more course coming from you after this one that you were kind of hinting towards right there with our affirmation concertina book. And then I'm sure you'll circle back hopefully next year and come back with more. There'll never be, you know, an end to your limitless creations. And if there is anything you guys want to learn from Kecia that she could do for a Create Online course, please put that in the chat, because maybe that can hone our next decisions of her next courses as well. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of thinking, I've already been thinking about, like, when I come back next year, what I might want to teach. And I still want to teach resin. You know, because originally I'd started off making jewelry, and so I was on a design team for resin for many years, and so I really know the ins and outs of resin and working with it in jewelry, but also in a mixed media presentation. And so I thought it'd be kind of fun to come up with a couple classes where maybe we make a jewelry piece, and then the second project could be a mixed media piece. And I don't know, because resin just really takes something to the next level as far as I'm concerned. It's just so beautiful, and it's different from you know, like, people are like, well, is that a shrinky dink? I'm like, no, it's totally different, like what resin is.
So when you do the resin, it's that whole pouring. I know a lot of people are doing it now with the pouring and everything.
So that's different. That's like acrylic pouring with resin on top. That's not how I use it. I use it so maybe we want to encase a focal image under resin, and then put it inside a pendant, and then we can wear it. And then also, I mean, I've done resin on top of book covers, and so there's just so much you can do with resin in a mixed media presentation.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm not sure I've seen some of that work of yours. And jewelry is always awesome to teach. Small, easy, doable, achievable, give as gifts, all those, you know, it checks all those boxes. So someone is asking, what is your favorite piece that you have created?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll have to grab that. You want me? I'll grab that real quick. It's kind of big, but I can grab it. So hang on.
Okay, we got a little more touring. This is good.
Now I'm going to grab it and bring it in here. So I'll be right back. It's right out here at the door. Okay. All right. So let me turn this around.
Oh, wow.
So it's a pretty big piece. I'll get in front of it for scale. So there's the piece right there. I'd say it's probably about 4 feet.
Yeah.
So this was, sorry.
Can you share a little bit about the materials that are made, that you made it?
Yeah. So I made this piece after my best friend passed away from breast cancer, and I was grieving horribly for her and about what happened to her. And so the top half, which is the body, you can see there's clay in there, and I've painted over it, and her arms are sticks. And then I molded her face, kind of it's called casting. I casted her face from a statue that I had seen in Bali. And then I created this wire cage for her skirt, and then just took fabric and just made all these just shredded strips and tied them on. And then she's just standing on a base. I had to give her 3 legs in order to achieve balance. So that was a lot of the experimentation that you were talking about.
Yes.
But yeah, one of my most favorite pieces, and I keep it out in my other room where I can see it.
Wow, that is just gorgeous. And I know that you and I went through something similar at the same time, losing someone we love. And that's a beautiful way to express it. Okay, I have that was from Kim. So thank you so much, Kim, for that question. That was perfect.
Thank you,
Um,
Kim. What a great question.
Someone's asking, how do you deal with feeling overwhelmed? If you get anxious, lots going on, how do you process feeling overwhelmed?
That's a really good question because during COVID, I became very anxious, and as a lot of us did. And I think I started having anxiety after my best friend died, actually. And so it sort of, and she died in 2016. So then, I've been dealing with little spurts of anxiety over the years, and then throw in COVID. And if you think back to that time, it was such a fearful time because there was so much unknown. Now we can look back and think, okay, wow, we really got ourselves, just so upset about this because no one had any clue. Totally understand everyone and how we were all feeling. It took a lot of juggling. I did some online counseling because we could only do online then, and then ended up meeting up like this psychologist lady over in the parking lot over here, and we did some stuff called EMDR, which is what they use to treat war veterans who are going through a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's ended up being the main focus of why my anxiety was so severe during COVID. Was I just was thrown back in some traumatic stuff about what happened to my son. And anxiety is really just a built up package of feeling overwhelmed, right? So that's a good question about how do you not feel overwhelmed. And in my situation, yeah, I mean, it can be overwhelming. All the worry that I have for my son, and that's what happened during COVID. All the worries about what could go on tomorrow, I was already trying to handle today. And so I really had to go back to just living in the moment and one day at a time, and trying not to go past this hour or the next hour. And I really just can't go there because it's just too upsetting. And that's how life is, though. It's constantly doing that to us, right? It's constantly overwhelming us in one way or another. We just think things are going great, and then bam, here comes something else. When I was at there filming, one of our feral kitties passed away. And just upsetting. And then a couple months before that, the other kitty had passed away, and that's all that sort of I put so much love and we give so much care to our animals as well. That's more grief, and I have to really watch those triggers and stay on task with coping,
Mm-hmm.
productively. And that's why I do so much art. I think I just pour some of those fears and all those anxieties and all those feelings of being overwhelmed. And I mentioned claustrophobia and feeling a little trapped. And so, yeah, definitely you can see now why art is so important to me and why it is such a daily practice for me, because it is my form of therapy or drug, if you want to call it that as well.
It is. You are 100% nailed it, and you do it so well. That's the gift that you get out of all this. You're like, if I'm going to be tortured and I'm going to go in the studio every day, I'm
Yeah.
coming out with something great, and now I get
Yeah.
to share it with other people. So,
Yeah.
again, that's why people don't know the backstory on a lot of artists, but it really shows how we got to where we are. It wasn't in a vacuum. There is a lot from behind the scenes and behind everything that
Yeah.
you come out producing some of this work, which is so incredible. Someone did ask, do you work with encaustic or encaustic at all?
I have done it before, and I really enjoy it. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot more supplies, and you need a really, really good ventilation system. The smells can be very overwhelming. I'm very sensitive to smells, so I have to make a choice about what am I going to smell in here. So I just don't have the space for it, for one.
Yeah.
But it is a great art. I love it, and I have done it a few times.
That's awesome. Is there any materials that are new to you that you've gotten excited about that you're working with?
Hmm. I don't know. I have a lot of supplies, and I always see people using supplies. I'm not the best at like. I always need someone to show me how to do something with it first, and before I want to commit to it, because I know sometimes it's like if you have to like read, all these instructions on how to do this, it's not going to be something I want to tackle. So usually, if I see something I like, I put the feelers out. Like, have you ever tried this? What do you think?
Right.
So I mean, I think that the my biggest leap would be trying a new paint recently. So
Well, nothing wrong with that. Well,
no,
I
not at
mean,
all.
and now that we have 4 courses online here at Create Arts Online with you, we have our Cora Lee, our art foamy doll. We
Hmm.
have our mixed media doll, which I absolutely loved all the materials and fun that came out of that. That was incredible.
And
And
that's more of like a sculpture, in case people are wanting to know. That's more of like a sculpture kind of thing.
yes, definitely. And then the shrine, of course, is just, everywhere around you. I know you get to go to the beach a lot when you're here. And so that really gets incorporated as finding things on the beach. And I'm like, where did you find that? And you're like, oh my God, I probably would have walked over that 100 times. And you're like making amazing art out of it, which is, one of your great talents. And then, of course, what we have just recently launched yesterday, the mixed media book building. So 4 courses, and we have an extra special bonus for all of you that stayed here. And I had to do this little analog style, but you can get all of Kecia's courses till tomorrow at midnight for 15% off with that code Kecia15. And
Nice.
we don't offer this deep of a discount often, if ever, just at the holidays and now. So till tomorrow night, you have all 4 of those courses. If you haven't gotten into any of them, or if you've gotten into some of them, we know we've seen some of you creating them and sharing them with us. Anytime that you create something and you would love us to see it, that's being Kecia, myself, or the whole online community, is posted in our comments section. And we make that available for everyone to see. And then we also have our free community. We'd love you to join, Students of Create Arts Online at Facebook. So that is obviously free. It is a great way to share your work there as well, and ask Kecia questions, ask me questions, ask your fellow artists and collaborating with people questions. So that's just a best way we can all stay engaged when we're not doing, the courses or being together like this, if we're not physically going to get together.
Yeah,
So
I
is
mean,
there,
social media is a great place to gather.
it is, it really is. And we all need that positive energy. We need that enthusiasm. We need people that, Kecia is a huge inspiration to the mixed media world. And I love everything you're creating. And yes, if you all out there are inspired, then share it with us and feel free to ask more questions, and we'll continue the conversation. But Kecia, if you have anything else to add?
I don't know. I thought maybe I'd grab the shrine that we keep talking about.
Oh, please, please. Yes, I love visiting your work. Oh, yes. Oh, I missed that piece. That's such a great piece. So yeah, Kecia created this one online. This is our mixed media shrine course. And again, the little bottom of that is literally weeds or whatever dry seaweed she found on the beach.
Yeah,
Like I said,
I don't know
I
what
would have
they
walked
call
over
that,
it.
but and then also this piece I had found on the beach too.
That's right. Yep, the jawbone of some animal. Yes.
Yeah.
So again, it's all about foraging. It's all about found objects. It's all about, and then you can talk about how personal that piece is, and that, that's not just stuff thrown together. There is so much intention in this piece and all of the work that Kecia creates.
Yeah, I mean, I did follow my own formula about adding things, and there's definitely like a nice sort of muted tones happening, earth tones. So, I had gone to the beach quite a lot to gather. I love the hunting and gathering. It's another thing that really inspires me in my work is the act of hunting and gathering. Even if it's around my own studio, packing for to maybe go take a class. Just that act of getting out things that I already love, but then being re-inspired by them. And so did a lot of gathering and foraging while I was there, not knowing what this was going to look like. I had no idea. I just brought a bunch of things. I packed a bunch of things. I went thrifting while I was there. I do like to recycle a lot of things and just give new lease on life to older things. That gives me a lot of pleasure. And you also kind of get that worn out look, which is very important in my work, so that it looks old. It's not like it looks like it just, brand new, kind of spanking new. And then, following my formula about what I wanted to add. And I always like bells. So I like the bells on here. I like the sounds they make. And then, these things that I found on the beach were a great way to fill in spots that were, needing a little help. But then again, I didn't want to just grab things that, like I had told you earlier, just because it's handy and, let me just throw this in here. It really needs to have some sort of personal meaning to really work, I guess is the best way to say it. And then I always feel like, and I think I had shared this in the class, that when I'm creating things, so I had like this little thing that I had made out of clay a long time ago. I made a whole bunch of them. And then I just kept thinking, I just really want to use that guy. And then I just sort of felt, and this has happened a few times when I've made my little shrines, is that I just felt like it was saying something to me about the grief that I've gone through, about my child, Tucker. And this is very symbolic of my life and my son's life and what we've all gone through. So it's very personal. I even feel a little cheery about, bringing that personal thing up. But, when something really comes from the heart, it really ends up showing.
Well, exactly. And I don't think you expected that when you were creating it. And
not at all. No.
Yeah, it really turned out so special, and it's so beautiful, and obviously not for sale. But even the piece that, like, you're just the way your eye works, you have to watch this course, because I can't even explain how the building blocks literally of this piece changed so much and just evolved, and how the top of it with the little crown sort of thing and the bells, it really is a very, very special piece. And you just can't believe the upcycling she does do is really in everyone's backyard. I mean, she used to walk around our backyard and find things that she could
I think I took the rock that I ended up putting here.
Yes.
I kind of borrowed from you.
No, we are happy to give to you, and anybody else that comes to the headquarters here. Yes, it is an upcycling adventure here and everywhere you go. So yes, thank you for sharing that. And that really shows again how to create something from your heart that has balance. It's beautiful, and you can learn it. That's the thing. You've really broken these projects down into a very cohesive and easy to bite-sized chunks learning experience.
I like that word, cohesive. That's a great word.
Yeah, all of your courses.
We've done that a few times now, but we did. So in this book class we just finished, we did the paper tour. And then I know in my shrine class, we did the, I don't know what we called it, but it was a big tour of just things that I had brought that were just so random and that I just liked, been saving for some reason, just tossed them all in my stuff. And then we did a big tour of it, because I think sometimes it's really hard for people to know, like, well, I don't even know what do I get? What do I take? What do I bring? What do I do? And it was just such a mishmash of, just this randomness. And then following the formula. And then I really think that just doing those little tours of, what would you bring? I know, like when I've gone to the vet before, what would you do if this was your pet? You know what I mean? You're getting that sage advice that someone who has been there and knows what to do. I really am liking the whole tour thing, the whole package of, not just the supply list. I mean, people can write out a supply list. I've done this, taken a new class and I'm reading the supply list, and I need to know, like, okay, what are we using that for? Because then it makes sense to me. And a lot of people don't do that. So I'm always really cautious about, okay, I want you to bring this because we're going to need it here. It just makes more sense, in your gathering process.
Well, and we're all visual, so that's the
Yeah.
way it should be. We don't need to just write it out. We are visual people, and
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one thing I think I could say right now is you are just full inspiration, that your courses really are a learning tool and inspiration for people to create their own, special creations that have their own heart and soul in them, but you have guided them is the best way to say it.
Yeah. And I have gotten this feedback, and I feel like I am permitted to say that I feel like I give really good guidance.
Absolutely. 100%. So you guys, just so you know, you can have 15% off for Kecia's guidance, not her psychology, her guidance. And we cannot thank you enough for being here, Kecia. It really was a special time to sit down and talk to you a little bit more, share it with our community. And thank you to everyone that is here. And if you see this in the replay, enjoy it just as much. And thank you again. Wait. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, bye, everybody. Thanks for coming in.